I must tell you something, and I need you to listen closely because what's happening right now in the cosmic architecture is not just another astrological transit. On August 16th, 2025, we will witness a Leo new moon conjunct with Venus and Mars in a configuration that last occurred in 1989, 30 years ago. But here's what makes this different from any other Leo season you've experienced. This alignment is happening while Jupiter in Cancer forms a precise sextile, creating what ancient astrologers called the Lion's Gate of manifestation. This isn't hyperbole. This is a once-in-a-generation frequency that will fundamentally alter how Leo energy expresses itself in our collective consciousness. I know you might think this is just another ordinary discussion about zodiac rates, but this time is completely different. The Leo archetype is about to undergo what I call a karmic reset, a recalibration of its core frequency that will separate those who truly understand Leo power from those who mistake it for mere ego. And if you've been feeling it, that strange combination of soul exhaustion mixed with an almost electric anticipation, that tightness right in the center of your chest where your heart meets your solar plexus, you're not imagining it. You have already felt it. Your energy body is preparing for something significant. Let me be precise about what Leo energy actually is, because most interpretations barely scratch the surface. Leo is not simply about confidence or charisma, though these are symptoms of something far more profound. Leo is the zodiac's embodiment of solar consciousness, the principle of self-actualized radiance. When we say Leo lights up every room, we're not speaking metaphorically. There is an actual energetic phenomenon occurring. Leo carries what I call gravitational presence, the ability to bend the attention field of a space simply by existing within it. This isn't learned behavior. This is encoded in the Leo frequency at a cellular level. Think about the sun for a moment. The sun doesn't try to shine. It doesn't question whether it should emit light. It doesn't dim itself to make other celestial bodies comfortable. The sun simply is. And everything in our solar system organizes itself in response to that being. This is the Leo principle in its purest form, not arrogance, but an unshakable knowing of one's right to occupy space and radiate authentically. And here's what's crucial. This isn't about domination. It's about permission. Leo gives others permission to shine by demonstrating that radiance is a birthright, not a privilege earned through suffering or self-diminishment. But let's go deeper into the psychological architecture, because this is where Leo becomes truly fascinating. The Leo personality structure is built on what depth psychologists call solar ego integration, the capacity to hold a coherent sense of self while remaining open to transformation. Most people confuse this with narcissism, but they're fundamentally different. Narcissism is a defense mechanism, a fragile construct that requires constant external validation to maintain its illusion. Leo confidence is structural. It's the difference between a house of cards and a cathedral. One collapses at the slightest disturbance, the other has been engineered to withstand centuries. Have you noticed this in the Leos you know? They can receive criticism, even harsh feedback, without their core sense of self fragmenting. This isn't because they're thick-skinned or delusional. It's because their identity isn't dependent on others' perceptions. They've done the internal work, often unconsciously, as it's part of their soul contract to build what I call an internal sun. This internal sun generates its own warmth, its own light, its own validation. External praise is appreciated, certainly, but it's not required for the Leo to know their worth. Now, let's talk about charisma, because this word gets thrown around carelessly. True charisma, the kind Leo possesses naturally, is not about being loud or entertaining, though Leos can certainly be both. Charisma is the ability to make others feel more alive in your presence. It's an energetic transmission. When you're with a Leo operating at their highest frequency, you don't feel diminished by their brightness. You feel ignited. You feel seen. You feel like a more vivid version of yourself. This is because Leo energy operates on the principle of amplification rather than extraction. While some personalities drain the room's energy to fuel themselves, Leo generates surplus energy and distributes it generously. This is why Leos are natural leaders, but not in the way most people think. Leo doesn't lead through authority or control. Leo leads through inspiration. They show you what's possible by embodying it first. They walk through the fire and emerge transformed, and in doing so, they create a pathway for others to follow. This is the lion's true gift, not the roar that intimidates, but the courage that emboldens. But here's where we need to address the shadow. Because every archetype has one, and Leo's shadow is particularly instructive. When Leo energy becomes distorted, usually through childhood wounding or societal conditioning that taught them their light was threatening, it can manifest as what appears to be ego inflation. The Leo who constantly needs to be the center of attention, who can't tolerate others receiving praise, who turns every conversation back to themselves. This isn't Leo in its natural state. This is Leo in survival mode, desperately trying to prove something that a healthy Leo simply knows. The shadow Leo is actually operating from a place of profound insecurity, though they've become masterful at disguising it. They've learned to perform confidence rather than embody it. And here's the tragedy. This performance is exhausting. It requires constant vigilance, constant management of others' perceptions, constant feeding of an ego that can never be satisfied because it's trying to fill an internal void with external validation. This is not Leo power. This is Leo pain. Does this resonate with you? Have you seen this pattern in yourself or others? The key to understanding Leo, and this is crucial for what's coming in August, is recognizing that true Leo energy is effortless. When a Leo is aligned with their authentic frequency, they're not trying to be confident or charismatic. They're not strategizing about how to command attention. They simply show up fully as themselves, and the room responds. This is the difference between force and power. Force requires effort and eventually depletes. Power flows naturally and regenerates itself. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out. I once worked with a client, let's call her Maya, who had Sun, Mercury, and Venus all in Leo. On paper, she should have been the embodiment of Leo confidence. But when she came to me, she was struggling with what she called imposter syndrome in her career. She'd been promoted to a leadership position, and despite her obvious competence, she felt like a fraud. She was exhausting herself trying to prove she deserved to be there, working twice as hard as anyone else, never delegating, never allowing herself to be vulnerable or uncertain. As we explored her chart and her history, a pattern emerged. Maya had grown up with a parent who was threatened by her natural radiance. Every time young Maya shined, got good grades, received compliments, expressed excitement about her achievements, her parent would either dismiss it or find a way to redirect attention back to themselves. Maya learned, at a cellular level, that her light was dangerous, that taking up space was selfish, that true love meant making yourself smaller so others could feel bigger. So Maya developed what I call a dimmer switch personality. She learned to modulate her brightness based on who was in the room. She became hyper-vigilant about others' reactions, constantly scanning for signs that she was being too much. And the exhausting part? She was still incredibly successful. Her Leo energy was so powerful that even at 50% capacity, she outshone most people. But she was miserable. Because living at half brightness when you're designed to be the sun is a form of slow death. The breakthrough came when we did a specific energy healing protocol I use for Leo placements. We worked with the solar plexus chakra, Leo's energetic home, to release the stored trauma of having her light rejected, and something remarkable happened. As Maya began to allow herself to shine without apology, without the constant internal negotiation about whether she was being too much, her leadership style transformed. She stopped trying to prove herself and started simply being herself. And her team's performance improved dramatically. Not because she was working harder, but because she was finally giving them permission to shine too. This is the Leo principle in action. Your radiance doesn't diminish others, it illuminates them. But you have to believe this at a bone-deep level, not just intellectually. You have to trust that your brightness is a gift, not a threat. And this is exactly what the August 2025 alignment is designed to catalyze: a collective healing of the Leo wound. A restoration of the solar principle to its rightful place in our consciousness. Now, Let's talk about the specific mechanics of Leo charisma, because understanding this will help you recognize it in yourself and others, and more importantly, it will help you cultivate it if you have Leo placements or want to work with Leo energy. Charisma operates on 3 levels: energetic, psychological, and behavioral. Most people only see the behavioral level, the confident body language, the engaging storytelling, the raw eye contact. But these are effects, not causes. The energetic level is where true charisma originates. Leo has what I call an open heart's solar plexus channel. This means their heart chakra and solar plexus chakra function as an integrated system rather than separate centers. The solar plexus governs personal power, will, and self-definition. The heart governs love, connection, and empathy. When these 2 centers are integrated, which is Leo's natural state, you get power infused with warmth, strength tempered with generosity, confidence that invites rather than intimidates. This is why Leo can be simultaneously regal and approachable. They hold their power without weaponizing it. They know their worth without needing to diminish yours. This integrated channel creates what energy healers call hear and feel, an energetic signature that others instinctively trust and are drawn to. It's not manipulation. It's authenticity operating at such a high frequency that it becomes magnetic. The psychological level of Leo charisma involves what Carl Jung called individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself, integrating all aspects of your psyche into a coherent whole. Leo is the Zodiac's master of individuation. While other signs might fragment under pressure, compartmentalizing different aspects of themselves for different contexts, Leo maintains an essential consistency. The Leo you meet at a formal business meeting is fundamentally the same Leo you'd meet at a casual party. The context might shift their expression, but the core remains stable. This psychological integration creates what I call presence, the quality of being fully now, fully yourself. And presence is intoxicating. In a world where most people are fragmented, distracted, performing versions of themselves they think others want to see, encountering someone who is simply, unapologetically themselves is like finding water in a desert. This is why people are drawn to Leo. Not because Leo is perfect, but because Leo is real. The behavioral level of Leo charisma is where most people try to start. And this is why their attempts at confidence often feel forced or inauthentic. They mimic the external markers, the bold gestures, the commanding voice, the direct eye contact without having done the internal work at the energetic and psychological levels. It's like trying to build a roof without first constructing the foundation and walls. The structure collapses under its own weight. But when Leo charisma flows from the inside out, the behavioral expressions become natural and effortless. The Leo doesn't think about how to stand or where to place their hands or how to modulate their voice for maximum impact. These things happen automatically because they're aligned with an internal state of coherence and self-assurance. This is why you can't fake Leo energy. You can perform it temporarily, but it's not sustainable, and people can sense the difference even if they can't articulate it. Let me share another case that illustrates this beautifully. I worked with a Leo rising client named David who was a brilliant software engineer but struggled in leadership roles. He had the technical expertise, the strategic vision, the work ethic, everything except the ability to inspire his team. His ideas would fall flat. People would nod politely but not engage. He'd leave feeling frustrated and confused, wondering why his clearly superior solutions weren't being embraced. When we looked at his chart, the Leo rising was there, strong and prominent. But in our sessions, I noticed something fascinating. David would literally make himself smaller when he spoke. He'd hunch his shoulders, lower his voice, pepper his statements with qualifiers like "I might be wrong, but all this is just my opinion." But he was unconsciously apologizing for taking up space, for having a perspective, for existing as a force in the room. As we traced this pattern back, David revealed that he'd been bullied extensively in middle school for being too smart and too intense. His survival strategy had been to downplay his intelligence, to make himself less threatening, too shrink, and this pattern had calcified into his default mode of being. Even decades later, in professional contexts where his intelligence and intensity were exactly what was needed, the transformation work we did focused on reclaiming his Leo rising energy, that natural authority and presence that was his birthright. We worked with visualization exercises where he imagined himself as the sun, not apologizing for its heat or brightness, simply radiating. We did somatic practices to help him physically embody confidence, teaching his nervous system that it was safe to take up space. And we addressed the core belief that his power was dangerous or unwelcome. Within 3 months, David's entire professional trajectory shifted. He wasn't doing anything dramatically different in terms of the content of his ideas, but the way he delivered them changed completely. He spoke with conviction. He maintained eye contact. He allowed pauses instead of rushing to fill silence. He stopped qualifying every statement, and suddenly, people listened. His proposals were approved. His team became more engaged. He was promoted to a senior leadership position. This is what I mean when I say Leo energy is structural, not superficial. David didn't learn tricks or techniques. He removed the blocks that were preventing his natural Leo rising energy from expressing itself. And once those blocks were cleared, the charisma and leadership presence that had always been there could finally emerge. Now, let's address something crucial that often gets overlooked in discussions of Leo traits: the relationship between Leo and creativity. Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun in astrological symbolism represents not just the self, but the creative life force itself. This is why Leo has such a profound connection to artistic expression, performance, and creation in all its forms. But it's not just about being artistic in the conventional sense. Leo creativity is about the act of bringing something into existence that didn't exist before, whether that's a painting, a business, a solution to a problem, or a new way of being. Leo understands, at a fundamental level, that we are all creators. That every moment, we are choosing what to bring into form through our attention, our energy, our actions. This is why Leos often have such a strong sense of personal agency. They don't see themselves as victims of circumstance or passive recipients of whatever life hands them. They see themselves as active participants in the creation of their reality. And this isn't magical thinking or denial of external constraints. It's a recognition that even within limitations, we have creative choice about how we respond, what meaning we make, what we do with what we've been given. This creative orientation is also why Leos are often so generous. When you understand yourself as a creator, as someone who can generate value and beauty and meaning, you don't operate from scarcity. You don't hoard your gifts or your knowledge or your resources because you're afraid there won't be enough. You share freely because you trust in your ability to create more. This is the abundance mindset that Leo embodies naturally, and it's one of their most powerful and often underappreciated qualities. But here's where we need to talk about the Leo challenge. Because every archetype has its evolutionary edge, the place where growth is most needed and most difficult. For Leo, that edge is learning to receive. Leos are masterful givers of attention, of energy, of generosity, of warmth. But receiving, that's where many Leos struggle. Because receiving requires vulnerability. It requires admitting that you need something, that you're not entirely self-sufficient, that others have gifts to offer you. I see this pattern repeatedly with Leo clients. They'll give and give and give until they're depleted, but they won't ask for help. They won't delegate. They won't allow others to support them. And when someone does offer support, they'll minimize their need or deflect or find a way to turn it back around so they're the one giving again. This isn't generosity. This is a defense mechanism. It's a way of maintaining control, of never having to be in the vulnerable position of needing. The irony is that this pattern actually prevents Leo from experiencing the depth of connection they crave. True intimacy requires reciprocity. It requires being willing to be seen in your need, not just in your strength. It requires trusting others enough to let them contribute to your well-being. And for Leo, whose identity is often built around being the strong one, the capable one, the one who lights up the room and takes care of everyone else. This kind of vulnerability can feel terrifying. This is particularly relevant right now because the August 2025 alignment I mentioned at the beginning is specifically designed to address this Leo wound. With Venus conjunct the Leo new moon, we're being asked to examine our relationship with receiving love, support, and care. Venus in Leo wants to be adored. Yes, but more than that, Venus in Leo wants to be truly seen and valued for who they are, not just for what they provide. And Mars in Leo is bringing the courage to actually ask for what we need, to set boundaries, to stop performing strength when what we actually need is rest or support or tenderness. Have you noticed this pattern in yourself or in the Leos you know? This tendency to be the strong one, the reliable one, the one everyone else leans on, but never allowing yourself to lean on anyone else. If so, pay attention to what comes up for you in mid-August. You're being given a cosmic invitation to practice receiving, to allow yourself to be supported, to discover that your worth isn't dependent on your usefulness. Let me tell you about another client, we'll call her Sophia, who embodied this Leo challenge perfectly. Sophia had Sun, Moon, and Jupiter all in Leo. She was a successful entrepreneur, a devoted mother, a pillar of her community. Everyone knew they could count on Sophia. She was always available, always generous, always ready to help. But Sophia came to me because she was experiencing what she called inexplicable exhaustion. She'd been to doctors. All her tests came back normal. But she could barely get out of bed in the morning. She felt like she was running on empty. But she couldn't understand why because, as she said, I love my life. I love helping people. This is who I am. As we explored her art and her patterns, the issue became clear. Sophia had been operating as a one-way valve, energy flowing out constantly, but never flowing back in. She'd built her entire identity around being the giver, the strong one, the person who didn't need anything from anyone, and her body was shutting down in protest. The exhaustion wasn't mysterious. It was her system's way of forcing her to stop, to receive, to allow herself to be cared for. The healing work we did was some of the most challenging I've facilitated because it required Sophia to dismantle a core part of her identity. We had to explore where she'd learned that needing others was weakness, that asking for help was burden, that her value was contingent on her capacity to give, and we had to build new neural pathways, new beliefs, new behaviors around receiving. I gave Sophia a specific practice. Every day, she had to ask someone for help with something, even something small, and she had to receive that help without immediately reciprocating or minimizing her need. For someone with Sophia's chart, this was excruciating. But she committed to it, and slowly, something shifted. She started to notice that people actually enjoyed helping her, that allowing others to contribute to her well-being didn't diminish her, it deepened her relationships. That vulnerability wasn't weakness, it was the foundation of authentic connection. Within 6 months, Sophia's exhaustion had completely resolved. Not because she was doing less, she was actually doing more, but because she was finally allowing energy to flow in both directions. She was receiving as well as giving. And in that reciprocity, she found a sustainability that had been missing before. This brings us to another crucial aspect of Leo energy that's often misunderstood. The relationship between Leo and loyalty. Leos are famously loyal. But this loyalty isn't blind or unconditional in the way people sometimes assume. Leo loyalty is earned through authenticity and reciprocity. Leo will give you everything: their time, their energy, their fierce protection, their unwavering support, but they need to know that you're real with them, that you're not using them, that you value them for who they are, not just for what they can provide. When Leo feels betrayed or taken advantage of, the response can be swift and final. This isn't pettiness or drama, though it might look that way from the outside. It's Leo's highly developed sense of self-respect asserting itself. Leo knows their worth, and they won't tolerate being diminished or exploited. They'll give you chances, often more chances than you deserve, because their generous nature wants to believe the best in people. But once they're done, they're done. The door closes, and it doesn't reopen. This is actually a healthy boundary, though it can be painful for those on the receiving end. Leo is teaching us that loyalty to others can never come at the cost of loyalty to ourselves. That true generosity includes being generous with our own energy and well-being, not just with others. That we teach people how to treat us by what we tolerate, and Leo refuses to tolerate disrespect or exploitation. I want to talk about Leo in relationships specifically, because this is where Leo energy becomes particularly complex and beautiful. In romantic partnerships, Leo brings passion, devotion, and a kind of wholehearted commitment that's increasingly rare. When Leo loves you, they love you completely. They're not hedging their bets or keeping one foot out the door. They're all in, and they'll make you feel like the most special person in the world because you are. But Leo also needs to feel special in return. Not in a needy or insecure way, but in a way that honors the magnitude of what they're offering. Leo wants to be chosen actively, enthusiastically, not just accepted passively. They want to know that you see them, that you appreciate them, that you're as committed to celebrating them as they are to celebrating you. This isn't ego. This is the Leo principle of reciprocal radiance. I shine for you, you shine for me, and together we create something brighter than either of us could alone. The challenge in Leo relationships often comes when their partner feels intimidated by Leo's brightness or tries to dim them to feel more comfortable. Leo will tolerate this for a while, especially if they love you. But eventually, it becomes unbearable. Living at half brightness to accommodate someone else's insecurity is a betrayal of Leo's core nature. And Leo will choose themselves over a relationship that requires them to be less than they are. This isn't selfishness. This is self-preservation. I've worked with countless Leo placements in relationships, and there's a pattern I see repeatedly that I want to share with you because it's so instructive. The healthiest Leo partnerships are those where both people understand that love isn't about merging into one entity or sacrificing individuality for togetherness. Leo teaches us that the strongest relationships are built onto whole people choosing each other, not two half people trying to complete each other. Leo doesn't want to lose themselves in you, and they don't want you to lose yourself in them. They want both of you to shine brighter together than you would apart. This is why Leo often attracts partners who are initially drawn to their light but then become resentful of it. The partner loves basking in Leo's warmth, loves being seen and celebrated by Leo, loves the reflected glory of being with someone so magnetic. But then insecurity creeps in. They start comparing themselves to Leo. They start feeling inadequate, and instead of doing their own work to cultivate their own light, they try to dim Leo's. They criticize Leo for being too much, too dramatic, too attention-seeking. They frame Leo's natural radiance as a character flaw that needs to be corrected. And here's what breaks my heart about this dynamic. Leo will often try to accommodate it, at least initially. Because Leo's generous nature wants to make their partner comfortable, they'll tone themselves down. They'll apologize for their enthusiasm. They'll make themselves smaller. But this never works. Because the problem isn't Leo's brightness. The problem is the partner's relationship with their own light, and no amount of dimming will fix that. The partner will just find new things to criticize, new ways Leo is too much harsh. Because the real issue is internal, not external. The Leo who understands this, who has done their healing work, will recognize this pattern early and exit the relationship. They'll understand that they're not responsible for managing someone else's insecurity. That true love celebrates rather than diminishes. That the right partner will be ignited by their fire rather than threatened by it. But the Leo who hasn't done this work, who still carries wounds around their worthiness, might stay in these diminishing relationships for years, slowly extinguishing themselves, wondering why they feel so hollow. If you're a Leo or you love a Leo, please hear this. Your brightness is not negotiable. It's not something to be managed or moderated or apologized for. It's your essence. And anyone who truly loves you will want you at full radiance, not half brightness. They'll understand that your light doesn't diminish theirs. They'll trust that there's enough room for both of you to shine. And if they can't do that, they're not your person, no matter how much you love them or how much history you share. Now let's talk about Leo in the context of the collective, because this is where things get really interesting and directly relevant to what's happening in August 2025. We're living through a time of profound collective shadow systems collapsing, truth being revealed, old structures crumbling, and in times like these, Leo energy becomes absolutely essential. Not the shadow Leo of ego and performance, but the true Leo of authentic leadership and courageous visibility. The world needs people who are willing to stand in their truth even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular, even when it costs them something. The world needs people who can hold steady in their knowing while chaos swirls around them. The world needs people who can be a light in the darkness, not by denying the darkness but by refusing to let it extinguish their flame. This is Leo's gift to the collective right now. But here's what's crucial. This isn't about individual Leos saving the world through heroic action. That's the old paradigm, the savior complex that actually perpetuates the problem. The new Leo paradigm that's emerging through this August alignment is about distributed leadership, about each person claiming their own authority and radiance, about recognizing that we're all meant to be suns in our own right, not planets orbiting around a single source of light. This is why the configuration I mentioned at the beginning is so significant. Jupiter in Cancer sextile the Leo stellium is creating what I call a permission field, an energetic environment where it becomes easier for people to step into their own power without apology. Cancer energy is about emotional safety and nurturing, and Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So we're getting an expansion of emotional permission to be fully ourselves, to take up space, to shine without shame. And this isn't just for people with Leo placements. This is a collective initiation. We're all being invited to examine our relationship with visibility, with power, with radiance. Where have you been playing small? Where have you been dimming your light to make others comfortable? Where have you been waiting for permission that you're never going to receive because the only person who can give you permission to be yourself is you? These are the questions the August alignment is asking us to confront. And they're not comfortable questions, because claiming your full radiance means accepting responsibility for your impact. It means being willing to be seen, to be judged, to be misunderstood. It means giving up the safety of invisibility and the comfort of blending in. It means standing in your truth even when your voice shakes, even when you're afraid, even when you don't know if anyone will stand with you. This is the Leo initiation, and it's not for the faint of heart. But here's what I know from working with this energy for decades. The cost of not claiming your radiance is always higher than the cost of claiming it. Living at half brightness doesn't protect you from judgment or rejection or failure. It just guarantees that you'll experience those things while also betraying yourself. At least when you're living at full radiance. When you're being authentically yourself, you're in integrity. You're honoring your soul contract. You're fulfilling your purpose. Let me share one final story that encapsulates everything I've been saying. I worked with a Leo Sun client named Marcus who was a high school teacher. Marcus was beloved by his students. They consistently rated him as their favorite teacher. They stayed in touch with him years after graduation. They credited him with changing their lives. But Marcus was miserable. He felt trapped in a system that valued standardized test scores over actual learning, that punished creativity and rewarded compliance, that treated students like data points rather than human beings. Marcus came to me because he was considering leaving teaching entirely. He felt like he was compromising his values every day, like he was participating in a system that was harming the very students he was trying to help. But he also felt guilty about the idea of leaving because he knew his students needed him, and he didn't want to abandon them. As we worked together, what became clear was that Marcus was facing a classic Leo dilemma. How do you maintain your integrity within a system that demands you compromise it? How do you shine your light when the structure around you is designed to contain and control that light? And the answer we arrived at wasn't what Marcus expected. Marcus didn't need to leave teaching. He needed to teach differently. He needed to stop trying to work within the constraints of a broken system and start creating his own system within it. He started an after-school program that was completely voluntary, where students could explore topics they were genuinely interested in without the pressure of grades or tests. He began using his classroom as a laboratory for innovative teaching methods, documenting what worked and sharing it with other teachers. He became vocal in faculty meetings about the need for systemic change, even when it made administrators uncomfortable. Was this risky? Absolutely. Marcus faced pushback. He was called into the principal's office multiple times. Some colleagues thought he was being unnecessarily difficult. But something remarkable happened. Students started advocating for him. Parents started demanding that their children be placed in his classes. Other teachers started adopting his methods. Within 3 years, Marcus had catalyzed a transformation in his entire school's culture. Not because he had positional authority, but because he had moral authority. Because he was willing to stand in his truth and let the chips fall where they may. This is Leo leadership in action. It's not about having a title or formal power. It's about having the courage to be authentic and the faith that your authenticity will create ripples that extend far beyond what you can see or control. It's about understanding that your job isn't to change the whole world, but to be fully yourself in your corner of it and trust that this is enough. And this brings me to the action plan I promised you at the beginning. Because everything I've shared is meaningless if it doesn't translate into something you can actually do. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Especially if you have Leo placements or if you're feeling called by this energy. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop qualifying your statements. Stop making yourself smaller to accommodate others' discomfort. Stop waiting for permission to be yourself. I know this sounds simple, but it's not easy. You've been conditioned your entire life to modulate your brightness based on external feedback. You've learned to read the room and adjust accordingly. You've developed sophisticated mechanisms for managing others' perceptions of you, and I'm asking you to dismantle all of that. Not recklessly, not without discernment, but consciously and deliberately. Start small if you need to. Practice taking up physical spaces with your shoulders back. Stand with your feet planted firmly. Allow yourself to gesture expansively when you speak. Practice taking up verbal space. Share your opinion without prefacing it with disclaimers. Let your voice carry. Allow pauses instead of rushing to fill silence. Practice taking up energetic spacewalk into rooms like you belong there. Make eye contact. Let yourself be seen. And here's the crucial part. Notice what comes up when you do this. Notice the fear, the guilt, the voice that says you're being too much or too arrogant or too attention-seeking. Don't try to suppress these feelings. Acknowledge them. Thank them for trying to protect you. And then do the thing anyway. Because these feelings are old programming. Survival mechanisms that served you once but are now keeping you trapped in a smaller version of yourself than you're meant to be. The August alignment is going to amplify all of this. You're going to feel the pull toward authentic self-expression more strongly than you have in years. Maybe in your entire life. And you're also going to feel the resistance more strongly, the fear, the doubt, the internalized voices telling you to stay small and safe. This is the initiation. This is the test. Will you choose your radiance or your comfort? Will you choose your truth or your safety? Will you choose to be the sun or to orbit around someone else's light? I want to be clear about something. Choosing radiance doesn't mean you'll never feel afraid or uncertain. It doesn't mean you'll always know what to do or that everything will work out perfectly. Leo confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act despite fear. It's the recognition that your purpose is more important than your comfort. It's the understanding that you didn't come here to play small. No matter how much easier that might be. And here's what I've observed over decades of working with this energy. The people who choose radiance, who commit to living at full brightness regardless of the cost, are the ones who look back on their lives with satisfaction rather than regret. They're the ones who know they gave everything they had. They're the ones who changed lives, not because they were trying to, but because they couldn't help it. Their authenticity was so powerful, so magnetic, so undeniable that it transformed everyone who came into contact with it. This is available to you, not someday, not when you're more ready or more healed or more confident. Right now, today, in this moment, you already have everything you need to step into your full radiance. The only thing standing between you and your most authentic, powerful, luminous self is the decision to stop hiding. So I'm asking you directly, what would change in your life if you stopped apologizing for being yourself? What would become possible if you claimed your full radiance without shame or hesitation? What impact could you have if you trusted that your light is exactly what the world needs right now? Don't answer these questions intellectually. Feel into them. Let them land in your body. Notice what shifts when you allow yourself to imagine living at full brightness. This is the Leo invitation. This is the gift of the August 2025 alignment. This is the opportunity that's being offered to you right now. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to figure out the whole path. You don't have to know exactly how it's all going to unfold. You just have to take the first step. You just have to choose, in this moment, to be a little more yourself than you were yesterday, to shine a little brighter, to take up a little more space, to speak your truth a little more boldly. And then tomorrow, you do it again, and the day after that, and slowly, incrementally, you build a life that reflects your true radiance rather than your learned limitations. You become the person you were always meant to be. You fulfill your soul contract. You light up the world simply by being authentically, unapologetically, magnificently yourself. This is what Leo teaches us. This is the wisdom encoded in the Leon's heart. That we are all meant to be suns. That our radiance is not optional or negotiable. That the world doesn't need us to be smaller or quieter or more palatable. The world needs us to be exactly who we are, at full volume, full brightness, full power, because that's how we give others permission to do the same. That's how we create the collective transformation we're all longing for. That's how we build a world where everyone gets to shine. So as we move toward this August alignment, as this rare cosmic frequency builds and intensifies, I want you to make a commitment to yourself. Not a commitment to be perfect or to never doubt yourself or to suddenly become fearlessly confident, but a commitment to choose your radiance over your fear, your truth over your safety, your authentic self over your performed self. Every single day, in every moment you can remember to do so. This is the work. This is the healing. This is the revolution. And know this, you are not alone in this journey. Every person who chooses to step into their full radiance makes it easier for the next person to do the same.